In this video, we're going to take a look at how to clean up the workstation using as little toxic chemicals as possible in order to keep our workspace clean and also remaining healthy. So the first step is I'm using the toothpaste solution in order to remove as much of the ink as possible from my printing plate, kind of scrubbing it a little bit. One thing that I'm noticing with this particular plate is that the some of the Sharpie is kind of coming up a little bit, probably an indication that I haven't heat set the ink quite sufficiently in order to sustain multiple print run explorations. So that's something to kind of keep in mind too, is how hard you're scrubbing in relationship to how long it was heated. All right, so once the plate is cleaned, I'm moving it out of the way, and then I'm going to be getting ready to continue to proceed with the cleanup. So at this point, I'm working a little bit on cleaning the press bed. I'm using a degreaser product called Spray 9 in order to clean this. You can see it down in the bottom center area of the screen. It has a green spray nozzle there. This has been working extremely well for cleaning up the oil-based ink, a lot better than the Terps, which I would have been traditionally using. So I'm just using a bit of paper towel and just wiping down the entire area, picking up all of the ink. Right. Typically, after I do use the Spray 9, I may go back in with just a slightly soapy water solution just to kind of continue to kind of work on cleaning up that particular part of the workspace. Okay, so once that's done, I'm going to make sure to release the pressure on the press bed and the rollers, just raising that top roller all the way up. And I finish off looking after the press by just laying all of the blankets and the press papers down onto the press bed and just recentering the press bed into the press. There we go. Okay, so once the plate and the press are adequately cleaned up, I'm going to go back out to the ink rolling part of my workstation. I'm going to move the ruler out of the way. Typically, if there was a lot of ink left, I'm going to try and save it. So as you can see here, I am putting the ink into a piece of wax paper or parchment paper, and this will be then put into a plastic bag. Again, making sure that you're thinking about what the quality of the ink is like. This does have those bits of skimmed over ink, which are making it a little bit more challenging to roll out overall. But this is ink that I might then end up using for an intaglio process, for example, because I'll be kind of just pushing the ink into the crevices as opposed to rolling it out. So it could still be a little bit useful. Okay, so again, once the ink is all gathered up, I'm just going to fold over the edges of the wax paper, and then I'm just going to deposit it into a plastic bag. Right, making sure that it's sealed, limiting the amount of air exposure to air so that the ink can be preserved for a longer period of time. The next part of the cleanup process involves cleaning up the ink on the rollout glass. Right, so I'm again using Spray 9 in order to do this, and I'm also using the palette knife to kind of move the Spray 9 solution around, and this is breaking up the stickiness of the oil-based ink, and also kind of removing it from the palette knife at the same time. So it's kind of doing two jobs at once, and I'm starting to remove some of the ink from the palette knife itself as well, right? Just to kind of work on getting that cleaned up. I find that just working just on this glass for all of the cleanup makes things a lot easier. I am able to remove all of the ink from that palette knife very easily, just using that little area of spray 9 solution, just wiping really hard so that, again, it's really just nice and clean and ready for the next time I'm going to be going in and doing some printing. At this point, I'm going to set that tool aside and then focus my efforts on the glass. So I've just got to grab some paper towels and some other materials just to make sure that I've got everything close at hand. One thing that is important to try and remember as well is that the work surface, if it's not level, the solution's going to run. So this is just a paint scraper. It's got a bit of a broader surface or edge, and it's really good at just kind of scraping everything off, especially with that spray 9 solution, so that it's then becomes really, really easy to pick up all of the little bits of ink. All right, so once that's done, we're just going to wipe this up. Again, using that spray 9 solution as much as possible, but being as conservative with it in order to get the most of the cleaning solution. Again, not wasting material and keeping in mind that trying to minimize the negative impact on the environment. Okay, so although it's not in the video, one of the things that I do after cleaning everything up is just use a little bit of a soapy solution just to kind of, again, continue to degrease the surfaces of my workspace and maximize making sure that everything is as clean as possible for the next time that I go in and I do my printing. All right, so then once this area is clean, it's time to start looking after the roller or what we refer to as a brayer. And this just happens to be a traditional relief printing brayer for like lino block or woodcut. It's a simple speedball, right? But it's also a little bit more challenging to clean. So the easiest way that I find is to use some of the paper that I was using during the printing process that has become kind of waterlogged and kind of crinkled. And before I get any cleaning solution involved, I'm using those pieces of paper and I'm just rolling the excess ink off of the brayer. This takes about 4 or 5 different sheets of paper. And as we go here, hopefully you're going to see that each layer, the ink becomes thinner and thinner. So I'm just, again, rolling it off layer by layer so that when it does come time to cleaning up the brayer with the spray 9 solution, it is as easy as possible, right? I don't have to get through all of that thick layers of the oil-based ink. It's just a superficial top layer, which makes things a lot easier to clean. You're not fighting with it nearly as much. Yeah, so once that's done, I'm just going to fold it up and deposit it into my waste receptacle. And I've got one last piece of paper here where I'm just going to give it one last quick little roll. And that looks like it's going to be pretty good for creating an easy clean. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to spray a little bit of the spray 9 solution onto the glass, or another option is to be using a degreasing agent. There are multiple options available at your local home hardware or Lowe's, Home Depot, etc. In order to be doing this type of cleaning work. Okay, so at this point, this is where I probably should be wearing some gloves in order to avoid getting the ink onto my hands, but I've just kind of used to working with my bare hands. Sometimes I will, yeah, sometimes I should be more consistently, at the very least, using a product known as barrier cream to minimize the amount of contact with my actual skin with any of these chemicals, right? Again, just basic health and safety processes. I haven't shown you how to apply it in this particular video or what the product looks like, but you can definitely ask about a barrier cream as an additional health and safety precaution. So for the rest of the video here, I'm basically just going in, cleaning up the edges of the roller, the faces of the brayer, as well as various parts of the handle that kind of get that a little bit of the spray, so to speak, from the rolling action on the glass. And when you know you're going to be done when the entire brayer is clean. Right? It is important to remember, however, that depending on the ink that you are using, you may find that the brayer, especially if it's a soft rubber, is going to stain, and that's okay. You just have to make sure that it is actually a stain as opposed to a deposit of ink. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to just speed up the video a little bit because a lot is happening off screen.